Today on the channel, we're bringing back an old friend, or maybe a new enemy, Todd McFarlane, as we haven't talked Star Wars for quite some time on the channel. That changes today, as we're going to find out what the heck's going on over there at Hasbro.
The spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, back again with another business hat video, sans hat, of course, Todd McFarlane. As today, we're going to talk about some recent developments in Star Wars and more importantly, with Hasbro. But of course, for all your Star Wars needs, you better hit up jaystoysandgames.com. Use discount code Kyle, save yourself 15%. But you guys, longtime viewers, and you gals too, of course, don't want to leave the gals out of it, know on this channel, I've done a lot of Star Wars unboxings in my time. Anybody remember the time? Todd, I know you remember. Guinness Book of World Records came knocking on the door. I did a Star Wars unboxing every single day for well over a year on this channel. And when people say, you know, how you get good at stuff, and that's debatable if I'm any good, but the 10,000 hours, that's what I did. I did so many Star Wars unboxings of classic Star Wars stuff, Power of the Force stuff, you name it, here on this very YouTube channel in the infancy of this channel. And that's how I got my repetitions, my chops in here. Whether I'm good or not, I did it. And I did a lot of hours of Star Wars videos. Sometimes only like 10 people watch the videos, sometimes thousands. It just kind of depends. But go back, check out those early wacky videos. Some wild, wild times in those old Star Wars videos. And if you want a good laugh along the way, there's some good stuff to go back and look. But it's not about those Star Wars videos. As many know, I did say so hard to say goodbye to about 90% of my Star Wars collection. Star Wars, and more importantly, Hasbro, basically lost a lifelong fan. And that's very unlike me. Of course, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s. And all the properties I enjoyed as a kid, teenager, into adulthood, I guess, have stuck with me one way or the other. There's very few things I was very passionate about that I don't collect or have representation in my collection. Well, Star Wars is one of those strange ones where I've basically just gave it up cold turkey and just turned my head and moved on. There's been a few things that have popped up, like a Valentine's Ewok, maybe, things like that. But outside of that, I've basically just said out of sight, out of mind. I don't pay attention to the Black Series. I don't pay attention to the Vintage Collection anymore. So it's a very, very strange thing. And then going to the properties of Star Wars here as we're filming this in 2026, Skeleton Crew, Grogu and the Mandalorian, the new Maul series. I'm not against watching any of these. It's just not high on my priority list. I've never got around to it, and I don't know if I ever will at this point. I would like to, but there's so many more things I would like to do with my time and energy than watch these. And what does that equal to? A bad day for Hasbro, a bad day for Disney, a bad day for Star Wars, at least here at this table, because I basically don't talk about it anymore. Yes, Todd, I still love a hairy bipedal creature, but that transcends Star Wars, as we do know. But I missed out on all those shows, and I don't feel like I'm really missing anything. Star Wars as a fan lost me along the way a couple years ago when I started doing the That's So Hard to Say Goodbyes. It feels like it's just not a property that's for me anymore. Maybe you've had that with wrestling or Marvel Legends or something else. I just feel like we're just not on the same page. It's like no real hard feelings. It's just I've went on my own way and my wallet came with me. And that's what Disney and Hasbro definitely hate for sure. But it's a weird thing with Star Wars and the action figure game. One of the things, this is going somewhere, Todd, just stick with me, stick with the business hat. It just felt like the classic characters weren't getting their just due. Obviously, you're always going to get the Lukes, the Hans, the Leias, the Darth Vaders, etc., etc. But we got those over and over and over again. I miss the days where we would get these crazy aliens, some Cantina aliens. We'd get, you know, the Lobots of the world. Where's Lobot? We don't get those kind of things. And that is a mistake, I feel, on Hasbro. They're forgetting about the people that brought them to the dance and forgetting about getting them classic characters they would really like to see. But at the end of the day, we put our business hat on. We keep it on. It's about getting the most out of your molds. It's about getting a lot of reuse. And there's a lot of aliens in the Star Wars world you can't get the reuse out of. And I understand that too, but once again, those are classic characters people want. I understand you need new blood, new life, but you got to do it with those classic characters to keep old-time fans interested. Like, I want to like everything Star Wars, but I am fairly certain, I'm speaking for somebody watching this video, that I only like the classic movies. I don't like anything 90s and after. And that's your opinion. That's your right. So you got to talk to all forms of the buying public is what you have to do. And I feel like Disney, Hasbro, etc. have not followed that rule along the way. And it really hurts not having a lot of those classic characters for me. And that was one of the reasons I bailed out. On top of that is we got outdated action figure technology, single joints, all that kind of stuff. You guys know I like double jointed pinless joints. No offense, Todd. Full offense? Okay, either way. They haven't done that. And on top of that, I feel like the Disney tax, we'll call it the Disney tax, we're paying more for the Star Wars figures than any other ones for less articulation, less diversity in the portfolio. It's just a bad mix that just does not work for me. I was all in on the vintage collection for a while. I was putting them with some of the classic lines over the last 20, 30 years. I guess it's been at this point all the way back to the Power of the Force. Mixing a lot of that. You guys, longtime viewers of the channel, know I had a huge display of Star Wars stuff. I said, I'm done. These vintage collection figures, 3 3/4 style, keep going up. They're nearing $30 a figure. That's just absolutely blows my mind. I don't understand it. I can't understand it outside of corporate greed. Yes, corporate greed, but I understand it. You got to pay the bills. I understand all that. The Disney tax and all that, but the juice is not worth the squeeze. And as we say all the time on the channel, you got to vote with your wallet. And that's what I did. I went out of the vintage collection first, said, I'm done with this. I'm not doing it anymore. Then it did snowball into the Black Series, multiple price increases, no updates in articulation, no updates in characters I wanted, equaled me taking my wallet and my business somewhere else. And unfortunately, when I didn't have new stuff coming in, I looked at the Star Wars and said, here's valuable real estate in my collection. Do I need this? Am I passionate about this anymore? And I cut out about 90% of my collection, as you guys saw in That's So Hard to Say Goodbye videos. I said, it's time to move on. I kept the hairy bipedal creatures. I kept the Rancors and the Jawas and the Jabba the Hutts of the world. But a lot of the other stuff, the fluff, disappeared, gone forever. I never looked back. So it's a weird thing. But that leads us to here in 2026, coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. And I got to be honest, I just kind of glanced at the Star Wars stuff, took a quick pass, moved on, didn't really stick it to memory like I maybe did with Marvel Legends or G.I. Joe or maybe some wrestling stuff. But I did look and I did see they had the INT4 Interceptor. I had to write that down because that is from the Grogu Mandalorian movie. But they did promote this one at San Diego Comic-Con, $51.99, fan channel exclusive, which basically means everybody but Target and Walmart is really what it means. The Jays of the world could order this. Well, then here we go into August. The pre-order stream happens. They announced it up for pre-order. It's no longer a fan channel exclusive. It's a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, which is an interesting turn of events. Not the end of the world, of course. You can still order it if you want to. But the Jays of the world, the DJCs of the world, and others probably a little bit upset they didn't get the chance to make some money off of this one here. But even worse, and maybe a godsend for Jays and DJC, it went up to $79.99. How many of these are they going to sell at $79.99? That is an absurd price. I think back to my childhood, the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier, all 7 feet of it, it was like $105. Obviously inflation, I understand all that. But when you think that like $20 more, you could have had an aircraft carrier back in the day. Now you got just this little vehicle. The math's not mathin', as they do say. So a little turn of events right there, really turning off a lot of people. And like I said, Star Wars a bit off my radar. Ancillary, I get some glances every once in a while. I couldn't escape this in forums, message boards, action figure groups, and just word on the street. Yep, Todd, I put my ear out there and the word on the street. You know, in the grocery stores, the Walmarts, the Targets. I was even at Foot Locker the other day and people were talking about this, Todd. It was a wayward referee that was trying to sell me some shoes. But that INT4 Interceptor at $79.99, I see zero value in that at that price. And I have to imagine the sales really, really suck on that one. They have to. There's no way they do not. So much so, in fact, Star Wars team from Hasbro had to release a press release, an announcement. Going to read that right here. We've heard your feedback regarding the pricing for the recent released Star Wars products. When these items were revealed at SDCC, we shared pricing that was inaccurate. And they bolded that, so I guess they stood up to their mistake right there. We know collectors pay close attention to these reveals and use the info we share to decide what they want to add to their collections. We understand the frustration when the price at pre-order didn't match what we previously communicated, and we're sorry we got that wrong. Now, here we go. Kyle taking big business's side on things. everybody makes mistake. Everybody gets fat fingers. Maybe the copyright didn't read right. Somebody wrote down the wrong price. Things like that do happen. Do I think Hasbro should say, well, we originally said this, we're going to honor this, and we're going to lose, let's say, whatever, their margins, all that kind of stuff. We're going to lose all this money if we go to $51.99. Maybe they'll break even. I'm not sure. We don't know the background financials on this at all. I don't think they should do $51.99 if they're going to lose money. They are in a business to make money. They're not in a business to break even or less. I can tell you that much. So I understand the frustrations. I understand the pain point for Hasbro. Would have been a lot better if it was $79.99 at San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody would still complain, I guarantee it, because that's a ridiculous price point. But they wouldn't have all this blowback. And honestly, for Hasbro, it looks like they don't have their ducks in a row. It looks like they have some problems over there as far as the team, communication, copyright, proofreading, whatever you want to call it. That's unorganized, especially at San Diego Comic-Con, which is your big showcase for the year for the most part for a lot of these companies, Hasbro included. It just makes them look a little less than, makes them look like they're not paying very close attention. And then even worse, I do feel bad, Mr. Stevie, he is apparently the face of Star Wars for Hasbro in this day and age. He has been taking the hits left and right. Once again, kind of hearing a little bits and pieces is he dived off social media, and then I think he came back and said, oh, it's not because of this. I just had to rechange some stuff. Where the truth lies, obviously somewhere in the middle as usual. But he was taking the brunt of it. He's the face of Star Wars. He's in the marketing team, all that kind of stuff. We got to take that business hat step back. I can put myself in his shoes. I understand what it's like being the face of a company with retailer and the consumer. You take a lot of hits that aren't deserved. You have to toe your company line because guess what? Mr. Stevie's paid for by Hasbro. He wouldn't want to say something Hasbro doesn't want him to say because he'll be on the unemployment line collecting unemployment if he's lucky. That's what would happen. So you got to be careful. You got to know your audience. So he's pitching for you, but he wants to keep that relationship with the consumer, obviously. And I think the consumer in this situation feel like they're betrayed, feel like they've had the wool pulled over their eyes, whatever saying you want to put in there. And he is the one that's going to take the brunt of that. I understand that as bread Jesus. I get that from a time or two. And I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. Stevie doesn't control the price points. He might be able to give his opinion, and then they probably pat him on his head and say, move on down the line, buddy, because you've got finance dealing with that. They're the ones running all the different scenarios. They got their Excel spreadsheets out. They're running the different scenarios, the break-even points, all that kind of stuff, shipping, taking all that in there. At the end of the day, it's Mr. Stevie to put it over the goal line and sell all of us to pick things up like this. But he isn't in charge of that. And once again, I understand that. I want to say, on the items I sell every day at my day job, I'd like to do them for $1 each to everybody. That doesn't make business sense. I get the marching orders. I can give some feedback and some opinions if I think it's going to work or not. And then they're going to pat me on the head like they do Mr. Stevie and say, you got your orders, take it to your customer, get it over the goalpost. And whether that happens or not is a piece by piece problem, I guess is what we'll say. And this INT4 interceptor, I have a feeling they're not going to be hitting the break even anytime soon on this. But I do feel bad for him getting hate mail and stuff, death threats. I mean, can you believe, Todd, people give me death threats every once in a while? They do. It's crazy. It's crazy the stuff people say online. And obviously, I'm just preaching the choir. Everybody knows this. But people say that because, hey, they don't have their face out there. They don't have their real name out there. And they wouldn't say any of that to my face, I'm sure. And I'm sure face to face, we'd probably be best friends if they just, act reasonable, I'm sure. But him getting death threats and threats against his family, and I always talk about it. The first ever YouTube comment I ever got on my first ever video I posted on YouTube was, I hope your whole house burns down with your collection and your family in it. That was the first ever comment I got. And a lot of people are surprised, Kyle, you stuck with it. I'm a glutton for punishment is what I am. But it is rough, and I can understand if you've got thousands of people yelling at you, blaming you for this, where unfortunately he works for Hasbro, or fortunately, either way you look at it, I guess. He works for Hasbro. He's the face of the Star Wars brand. He's going to take the hit. So it's kind of what you signed up for, unfortunately, but nobody should get that crazy. Come on, it's just toys at the end of the day. If you don't like it, pass. And I can tell you, corporate America, these big companies like Hasbro, if you really vote with your wallet and everybody votes with their wallet, things change pretty quick. The problem is, and I'm guilty of this myself, I'm a completionist. I guess I'll stick with it. I guess I'll pick up this interceptor. And I'm part of the problem at that point. And maybe you are in something else. Maybe you're big into Street Sharks, whatever, DuckTales. Who knows what we're talking about. But It's a tough game, but at the end of the day, I guess, vote with your wallet. That's what makes the world go around, and that's what true change happens with, is when your wallet comes out there. But a wild time, and this video is a couple weeks late, Todd. I've been very busy. You know, Bread Jesus is a busy guy. But I found it interesting. I wanted to touch on it. I don't talk Star Wars really anymore over here, and it was such a big part of my life from my childhood all the way until recently. But as I said, I still pay attention to stuff, and to see this all go south and see this absolute dumpster fire of 2026 play out in social media and beyond, it's just a rough go. And I'm going to leave you guys with all this. Todd, I'm going to leave you with this too. If I was in the house at Hasbro dealing with Star Wars, which never going to happen in a million years, but if I was, I'd say, you know what? We need the Great Reset. We've seen a lot of toy lines do it. Star Wars never really has done the Great Reset, and I think it's time. I think they're at a place where they got to reset the world. It's time to say, hey, maybe the Black Series needs to go away. You can maybe still call it Black Series, call it something different, but it's time to reignite the figures. It's time for a figure redesign. It's time to start over fresh. Maybe it's new molds. Maybe it's going above 6 inch. Maybe it's somewhere between 3 3/4 and 6 inch. Maybe it stays at 6 inch, but new articulation, new designs. I think it's time for Star Wars to do that. They're definitely struggling at retail. I see it constantly. I've seen those shipper boxes with like the white first day releases. My Target, one of the busiest Targets in the state, still has the whole shipper just sitting there untouched. Nobody's interested in it. Price points are too high. The character selection is not right. It's time for the Great Reset. Can you imagine if Hasbro would have sat back and said, all right, we're going hard. We're going back and we're doing Series 1, this whole new toy line. We're going to start with Duke. We're going to have Chewbacca. You got to have the hairy bipedal creature in there. We're going to put Han. We're going to put Admiral Akbar because that's another clear favorite of many as well. You put some of those heavy hitters and maybe an Admiral Akbar, a crazy character, a crazy alien character, and you repeat that cycle. You get the deep cuts. You get some of that. It basically welcomes new people that, like, I've always liked Star Wars. I'm going to jump into this and stuff like that. Now, this is easy for me to say, a guy on the outside looking in, but I think it's something Hasbro should probably think about. They've had so much stink lately. The price increases. We were so used to paying Black Series Vintage Collection prices for years and years. People can't get that out of their head. If they started fresh with brand new lines right now, well, it's a great reset. It's a great price point reset. This is the price. You can't compare it to Vintage Collection of old because it's a different line. It's a different toy line. So easier said than done, but that might even bring me back into Star Wars if they did something like that. Don't think it's going to happen, no. But there it is. That's my ramblings of a madman with a business hat on that's not really on. It's invisible. I got it from Wonder Woman, but that's my business hat video here today. Be very interested if any of you even follow Star Wars. There might be nobody watching this video. If you're watching this video, put something in the comments, maybe a thumbs up, something, I don't know, but let me know your thoughts on the whole Star Wars situation, where you're at as a Star Wars fan and collector. Do you have a similar story like me, or do you have a totally different story than me? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this very YouTube channel. We got a ton of business videos. We got unboxings. We got toy hunts. We got podcasts. We got everything under the sun. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and my other YouTube channel. Check out Patreon. Check out YouTube channel memberships to support this very channel. Check out my podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show, each and every Tuesday, wherever podcasts are found, with video cast on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to follow me on social media. SirPaul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and The Kyle Peterson Show at gmail.com, which is the name of my podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show. Available where podcasts are found, with video cast on YouTube. Got to plug it twice. It's so nice, Todd McFarlane. You can enjoy my wife, Angie, over there and all of her witty banter, or she's along for the ride, either way. But check it out if you have not already. For a little Star Wars business hat video, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.
Are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?
I'm solid gold.